Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income producing real estate investments. Now, guys, today I'm excited to sit down with a fellow mobile home park operator, Derek Vickers. Derek is the CEO of Victory Real Estate Group, which is a rapidly growing investment firm focused on acquiring and operating mobile home communities across the Southeast. Now, Derek, and we'll talk about this here today. Derek got a start as a door-to-door insurance salesman prior to transitioning into the real estate space, and then ultimately found his niche in the affordable housing sector or mobile home parks. So since then, he's been able to build an impressive portfolio and team. All while navigating all these challenges that we've had, the last couple of years. Tough interest rate environment, rising competition in our space, and lots of shifting macro trends. So today we'll dive into Derek's journey, his strategy for finding deals in a relatively tight market, and then all the lessons that he's learned along the way, both the good and the bad. And so, guys, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Derek to the show. My friend, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed listening to your show, like especially when I was first getting into real estate, and I'm excited to be on today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you, Brian. I was on your show a couple months back, so now we're gonna turn the tables and talk about you today. So excited to learn about your journey. So why don't we do that? I mean, for those that aren't familiar, don't know who you are, Derek. Maybe let's just back it up a bit and tell us more about your origin story. How you got started in real estate, and what ultimately drew you to mobile home parks.
Yeah, so it actually started. I grew up in a small town in Virginia, about 2,000 people, like a very rural area. Went to college, ended up not finishing college for various reasons, and I moved back to Virginia. And ended up moving to Florida in 2012 with 300 bucks in my pocket. It was a tax return I got from my $9 an hour job I was working. And I got the bright idea to start selling insurance door to door, which was super tough. Like I had no confidence, no sales skills, no communication skills, and so I got beat up. I got my teeth kicked in for a while. But I knew I didn't want to go back to the 9 to 5, so I figured out over the years how to make this work. I suffered and didn't make any money really for the first 2 years, and ended up after the third year started making it work, and then ended up building a sales team of over 100 people. And I was in that business for about 10 years. But halfway through that, I started to learn about like wealth building. And I'd learned that like people that had high net worths didn't actually get paychecks for 50 million bucks a year. I thought they got a paycheck. But I learned that they buy assets and they grow assets, and that's how they grow their wealth. And so I started studying real estate because it was simple. The rent comes in, and like, rent's going to go up over time and the property's going to appreciate. Like, it was a simple model that made a lot of sense for me. And so I started like back of the napkin underwriting deals, starting in about 2015, 2016. And I just got familiar with the numbers. This was multifamily stuff, but I couldn't even, Kevin, I couldn't even think about like asking someone for 50 grand to buy a deal. And I didn't want to buy like a duplex or anything like that. So I was looking at big deals, and like the numbers were just too massive for me to even think with. And then when COVID happened, our insurance, I mean, no one wanted to buy insurance during COVID. It was just a very uncertain time. And so I was like, all right, I got to get this real estate thing going because my income is still susceptible to economic swings. And so I started looking for deals, multifamily deals. I'm like, man, the numbers they're not that exciting. And so I had a friend that had invested and bought some mobile home parks. And I fell in love with the asset class, found your podcast, and I was like, man, I like this makes a lot of sense. And where I grew up in rural Virginia was like there's trailer parks around. I played in trailer parks when I was a little kid, right? And so I never did I think I would invest in one or own one. But yeah, then I found a list in Florida of all the mobile home parks in Florida, and I did what I do best. I started cold calling. And in between my insurance meetings, I would cold call owners and actually set up meetings to go see them in person. And ended up getting the first deal about 6 months after that. And then, we just went on a tear in 2021. But that's
That's
how I
all.
got in and got
Yeah.
started.
No, good stuff, man. I appreciate the backstory. And just curious, what type of insurance were you selling?
It was supplemental insurance, like health insurance for disability and things for businesses.
Okay, so B2B stuff. Okay, good
Yeah.
deal. Well, let's talk about the foundation. That first part. So let's start there because I feel like that kind of sets the framework for what you've grown your real estate group into at present time. So that first deal, you're calling on a bunch of stuff in Florida, setting up meetings. Sounds like you landed that first deal within the first 6 months. And tell us a little more about it. Did you get cold feet a couple times along the way, kill a couple deals before you did that first one, or was it, hey, I'm tying this one up and rolling forward?
No, so this one was kind of funny. So the guy that was investing in mobile home parks introduced me to someone that he knew, actually close, very close to where I lived, that knew the mobile home park business to a degree. He understood real estate, and so I started when I was finding deals, I would underwrite them and send them to him. And I'd be like, "Hey, this is how I'm underwriting this. Like, what do you think of it?" So we developed a good relationship over the months. And he had actually put this deal under contract in Cocoa, Florida. You know where that is, I'm
Yep.
sure. And I knew about it. I knew he had it under contract, but he calls me one day and he's like, "Hey, my we got this deal in Cocoa. I told you about it. My operating partner backed out. We're closing in 7 days. Do you want in?" And I'm like, I'll call you back." I ended up calling him back immediately. I'm like, "Dude, why? You should have just said yes on the phone." And so I said yes, jumped in this deal, hadn't done any due diligence. I did get some cold feet because it was a disaster of a deal. Everything that, you and Frank Roth probably say not to do, all park-owned homes. We thought it was city water and city sewer, but actually half was on septic. There was criminals in the park, vacant park-owned homes, crackheads in the park. It was a mess. It was a mess.
So, I mean, you put your own capital into this deal. The deal was brought to you, but you move forward. I mean, so let's. I want to talk. I mean, you just gave us you like teased us a little bit because you gave us all the the challenging elements of this deal, but ultimately, what did it look like? You closed in the park. You got a partner now. Just your very first deal. Talk to me about that first, I don't know, 6 months or a year of, or just walk me through the story, that deal, but also, and then, when did you say, man, this was a great idea. This was a great investment. Even with all the challenges, this was a great investment. I love this asset class. I'm going to, push forward in a big way.
Yeah, yeah. So to give you, so when we closed, like I was scared to death because if you would have saw this park and walked into it, and maybe you can flip through my social media, I probably have some posts of before and afters of it, but it was scary. Like the health department used to take their new employees to this park as an example of what not to do. Like it was a disaster. And so I was like terrified going in there because I was operating it. So I had to go in and knock on each door, go door to door, and be like, "Hey, this is what we're doing now," right? And it was scary. It was scary. But I'm a persistent guy, and when I get into something, I'm gonna figure it out and make it work. But the good thing about it is my insurance office was 15 minutes down the street, so I'd wear a suit and tie every day, and about 4 o'clock, I would change into a hat and t-shirt and go over to the park. But it was an all park owned home deal that we were going to convert to tenant owned homes. And so basically, if you were a tenant there, you had to basically reapply if you wanted to keep your home. So we had them reapply, and some of them kept it, and then we changed out some of the tenants. But then we sold the other vacant park owned homes as handyman specials and brought people in to fix those up. And in this market, this worked really, really well. We purchased that park for about 23,000 a pad, 425 grand divided by 22 or whatever it was. And we were getting 500 bucks in lot rent, easy there.
Hmm.
And so we made that deal worth, I think it was 1617 with it. We basically bought it cash and then refinanced it just about a year later. And I got a big chunk out of that. And I was like, dang, like this is, I got as much on that refi as I'd had like in a whole year of working in the insurance business. And it really was just a lot of work up front. And that was my like cognition, which had actually happened before that because me knowing the math, I'm doing the math. I'm like, oh wow, like we just created a lot of value there really, really fast. And that was the light bulb that went off for me.
Okay.
But I mean, really, Kevin, the light bulb went off for me before when I learned about the asset class, and I was like, man, I love the fundamentals of this. Low supply, decreasing supply, high demand for affordable housing. I just really love the market fundamentals of it generally. Um, but that's really that was the
Okay.
first
Yeah, no,
deal.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been, 4 plus years, how is your overall investment thesis? Has it changed at all? Has it evolved? I mean, does the profile, the parks that you buy today look very different than that one? Or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, so it's very similar. Like I like to buy value add deals,
Hmm.
specific types of value add deals. We don't buy stuff that's quite as nasty as the first one anymore. But we still like to buy deals that are value add. They have a park owned home component, and we like to convert those to tenant owned. So I still like value add because I can actually go in and increase the value of the property quickly, and we've developed the systems and the processes to do that effectively without going crazy. And so, it hasn't really changed. I
Okay.
still like to
Yeah.
buy in those types of deals in hot markets.
Have you found and we've done a lot of conversions just like that where you're converting a POH community over. And I've personally found and this is across many different markets that in some markets it works great, in others it's a struggle. And so, theoretically it makes sense. But have you ever had situations where that methodology just doesn't play out how you had hoped for?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good point that you make there because it depends on the market that you're in. Like you
Mhm.
cannot, yes, in theory, like you find a park-owned home park in the middle of nowhere somewhere, you're like, man, I can convert these, right? Easily. But I don't buy in rural areas for this reason because, I've just heard horror stories. You can't find a contractor and whatnot, but it's gonna be harder for you to find people to buy homes. So for
Yeah.
some of the Central Florida markets, it's easy. It's like boom,
Yeah.
clockwork. You're gonna find people. But yeah, in a market that doesn't have the demand for it, or in a market that's a renter's market, there's actually markets that are
Yes.
renters markets where people do not like the idea of owning their own homes. And if you run into that, this type of business model, it can be difficult or it's just going to be really, really, really slow.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a valid point. And kind of the same thing goes with giving away the handyman specials for a low price, right? Like I've found that works really well in some markets where folks actually come in and they actually fix them up.
Yeah.
And then others where you can't give the damn things away, and if you do give them away, you're going to get it back in 6 months, and it's probably going to look as bad, if not worse, than what it was when you handed it to
Yeah.
them. And they don't do anything. They end up living
That's
in
right.
there.
That's
They're
right.
living on like subfloors, and no electricity or no water, and yeah, it's a complete disaster. So, um, talk to me about the last couple of years. Just any ways that you guys have adjusted your strategy, kind of your buy box to stay competitive. Um, during rising interest rates. I mean, obviously we saw you got in at 2020. I mean, like literally rates were at historical lows, and then a short time thereafter, just a couple of years, completely different environment. So, what is your business? Has it changed over the years? Have you guys had to adapt to continue growing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but I'm a disciplined buyer. So if the deal doesn't fit like what I want, like I'm not buying it. And
Yeah.
so when rates started to go up, we literally didn't buy anything for almost 2 years because there just wasn't anything, right? And it was just like, okay, I can't make sense of these deals. Yes, there's value add deals out there, but I can't make sense of them and the work that's going to be involved at the numbers. Some of those deals have actually came back around to us here recently. But we focus a lot on operations and because we bought a lot of stuff fast. And so within that time, like, hey, we had, operational things that kind of broke in the process. So we had to figure out ways to handle those things effectively because when you're doing value add deals, there's a project management element of it that you don't realize once you're getting into the business. You have to be good at that. And so a lot of it was just really honing in our operations so we could go on a tear and start expanding again, which I think that we're moving into now. Um, but I've even had investors ask me, they're like, "Hey, you did great on these deals that you bought in 2021, but what about ones in 2022 or 2023?" And I'm like, "Well, we didn't buy anything. Like, there was nothing to buy, right?"
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to buy something where, especially if we have to go in and do a lot of work, I'm not going to buy something initially if it's going to take, 5 years to, um, get a significant like equity multiple on it. If I'm buying value add, I want that to happen fast.
Yeah. No, good stuff. How about just, you reference, some massive growth over a couple years span of time. I guess if you could pick one of the biggest challenges during those couple years of massive growth, what would it have been?
Yeah, look, I think it's really, so let me put this way, Kevin. So you buy your first park and you're like, okay, it's all tenant owned, it's easy to operate, and you're like, yeah, I can kind of handle this, right? But you need to put the systems and the processes and the SOPs in place, especially if you're planning to grow, because as you grow and you look up and all of a sudden you got 500 lots, you got 900 lots, and you're like, oh shit, we don't have any of this stuff in place, then it's going to be a bigger problem because there's a bigger ship you have to turn. So I think one of the biggest lessons was just not standardizing a lot of stuff in the
Yeah.
beginning and writing it up. Like we have company policy now where it's duplicatable. So we have a new staff member that can come in, we give them the booklet on how to do X, Y, and Z. So moving forward, like we don't have to do that, but we didn't have that in the beginning. And so it was a lot of bumps in the road. And, when you're growing that fast, you give managers too much power, and you know how that
Yep.
probably goes. And, I just think that's where people make mistakes. You're small and you're like, well, I don't need to put all this, this fancy operational stuff in yet. And you kind of don't, but you do at the same time,
Yeah.
especially if you're looking to scale.
How do you guys document all your SOPs? Do you guys have them online, or is it like an actual physical manual?
No, we have them online. We
Okay.
use Google Drive and we have them all. It's
Got
like
it.
a policy index for each division in the company.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Yeah, we at the present time we use Trainual, which is, we can put videos in there and different things like that. So, but yeah, no, you gotta. I mean, like, there's it's difficult to be incredibly proactive when you're first getting started, right? Because you don't even know half the policies and procedures, right? Like, you're
That's
trying to.
right. That's right.
Hold on a second. My edit this out, guys. My chair just like dropped. Apologies about that, guys. Edit that one out. But no, yeah. I mean, you're basically trying to build the ship as you sail it. I mean, again, there's certain things that you just don't know until you actually go through the motions. And so, and I think it's an ever evolving, process as well. I mean, I could tell you that we revisit our SOPs departmentally on a quarterly basis, and there's adjustments that are made on a reoccurring basis. There's always something changing, so that we can stay up to speed and just really on the cutting edge of the business, trying to operate as efficiently as possible. So yeah, you started just yourself and a partner. Now, what's your team look like today, you guys? I don't know how many lots you have, but ultimately it's more than just Derek, right? I mean, it takes an entire village to grow a company like you have. And so, what's your team look like today?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got, a pretty decent sized team today. I mean, we have my COO, Paul, is like, he handles a lot of the stuff that I don't want to handle, and he does really really well with that. But we have people, corporately that are basically, what we learned through that process that I talked about, Kevin, is that we need to basically pull a lot of the responsibility off of the property managers that they don't necessarily need to handle. So we handle a lot of tenant calls and things corporately. So we have a couple people that answer the phones, handle rent manager issues and certain operational things like that. So the on-site slash regional manager people don't um don't have to do that, and they can focus on the high value things that we need to push the business plan forward. And so we the people in the corporate office are basically taking that heavy lifting off, and that's like makes it a lot easier and a lot easier for us to execute the business plan. But our model is really that we like to buy the parks in a clustered area. So a bunch of parks in, let's say, the Tampa, Florida market. Then we'll have one regional manager handle that whole area. Plus, we have the back office support operationally to um, to help support them so they can handle focus where they
Mhm.
can focus on moving the business plan forward. And then we have people that on my marketing team that's doing social media and podcasts and stuff. So it's evolved. Acquisitions used to just be me. Now we have four people doing acquisitions. And so it's the next part of the business that we're evolving is, investor relations, because I'm still doing a lot of that now.
Yeah.
And as we're growing, we're doing our first fund now. So like I'm gonna need to, you know, get out of handling all the investor things because it's a lot as the more investors that you get, and you can probably attest to that. So it's a constant, expansion of the team. And it's interesting when you're growing, you're trying to do it in a financially feasible manner, but you're also trying to hire quality. And so it's a constant balance of do I want to spend and hire this person, even though you probably should, and you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough. You start making money, and then you realize, like, I've only got so much bandwidth, and I've got to hire some talent to join the team to take some of this burden off my shoulders. But like, ultimately, that means you're going to probably give up some of that income that you just started earning, right? And so you take two steps forward, and then you take a step back, two steps forward, step back, but I think us being entrepreneurs, right? The whole objective, at least for me, I mean, is to build something that is self-sufficient, self-sustaining, where there's folks in the team that are way smarter than I am in most of the respective areas of the business, right? To where now it's just me really providing the guiding light, kind of the vision forward, but then having just incredibly talented folks within the various departments implement and integrate that strategy. And so to where you walk away for 30 days if you want, and you come back and the business is in better shape than when you left, right? And it takes a long time to get there. And it takes, you got to be of a certain size before you have enough revenue to start hiring those key hires, right? Like, because getting talented folks is expensive, right? It costs a lot of
That's right.
money.
That's
You
right.
can't be, it's one of those areas you can't cheap out on either. It's just not like, that's not where you find value. You find value by buying great parks at a great price. You don't find value in cost savings and hiring inferior folks on the team. So no, that's fantastic, buddy. So what do you? I guess you talk about the Southeast. You referenced Florida a number of times. Are you entirely focused on the Southeast? And if so, what states does that encompass? I know Florida's one of them, but are you guys in other states as well?
Yeah, so we're more Sun Belt focused now than just the
Okay.
Southeast. Like we're going into Texas and Arizona. Got a couple deals under contract in Arizona now. We really like that market, and so we're expanding across there. But our whole thing is like we'll even buy, I haven't really looked at the Midwest yet, but I like to be within 30 minutes of a large metro,
Mhm.
1 million people plus. That gives me the bandwidth and the demand necessary to run the business model that we talked about earlier. Because if you go any smaller than that, it's doesn't work quite as well.
Yeah. Florida has become an incredibly hyper competitive marketplace. Have you found that to be, a challenge within your business, finding great, good opportunities in good markets? You talked about Central Florida, which, to all of us that live in Florida is really Orlando and the surrounding areas. Um, and it's just there's a lot of obviously lots of big operators, big institutional capital players in the and basically all the major markets in Florida, Miami, Tampa Bay, and even all the way south of Tampa down to Fort Myers and Naples, and then you've got Central Florida, which is massive, and then Jacksonville, and then the Panhandle. Right? It's very. I have personally found it difficult to find deals that are high quality and good markets that actually are that we can make pencil. But I mean, have you found that same challenge?
Yeah, and I mean, look, yes, yes, and no, but we still find deals. I think because I'm so intimately connected with the market and intimately
Yeah.
connected with the sellers, and I've got sellers I've been working with for a while, I've got brokers I've been working with for a while. I'm still finding, value here in Florida. Like we just put a deal under contract in Lakeland. We put one under contract in Clearwater, and South Florida's tough though. South Florida's tough. Would love to buy
Yeah.
something down there. I just can't find anything. But I don't really do anything in the Panhandle. I think if you go above Ocala, it's just, eh, It's just not great. Um, but yes, look, is it competitive? Yes, but we're still figuring out ways to get deals done because a lot of times, I go and see these sellers. Like we found a little deal in Inverness off of
Hmm.
some mailers the other week. And I was like, I like it. We'll just take it down, right? And I was able to call the seller. I'm like, hey, I live here. Just drove the park. Like, it's fine. We want it. So I think a lot of that boots on the ground and like going and meeting people makes it easier. And then, just knowing the market so well and being able to get creative and how to make the numbers work. I feel like that puts me at a little bit of an advantage in Florida over some people because I can actually go in and pay a number that somebody else may not be able to see like I see it.
Yep.
And that may be, you were talking about the deal in Columbus. So if you see a deal in Columbus and I'm like, yeah, I can't do that, you may see it in a different way than I would. So I would say that it's the same with me here in Florida.
Yeah, no, no, valid points there. Talk to me about, I guess, again, back to Florida insurance. I mean, it's we've had a number of hurricanes now. Insurance is a tough one to navigate. Have you guys been able to work yourself around that and still get good policies put in place with your Florida assets?
Yeah, I mean, like, so the deal we just closed over in Melbourne, which is, I don't know, it's right by the water.
It's on the East Coast. Yeah, East Coast, right?
Yeah, so you're not going to believe this. So my insurance was $625 a unit.
Yeah. Oh my God, a
Yeah,
unit?
a lot. Yes. So that's crazy, right? But, I'm underwriting that in the deal.
Yeah.
So, and the only reason it was that much because this deal came with a commercial building in the front that, jacked up the price. Like if you
Hmm.
don't if you don't have a building like that and you're just getting liability, you're not in a flood zone or anything like that, like, it's fine. Some business interruption will be
Yeah.
it's going to cost you a little bit, but if you just underwrite that in the deal and the deal still works, like,
There you go.
okay, I don't really care. But yes, there have been some instances where it's like, okay, the insurance, that's going to definitely, we're going to run 40% expenses, 42% expenses, and it's going to be a little bit tougher to deal with. But, not only that in Florida, the property tax reassessment is massive
Hmm.
and you're going to get crushed there too. So, but again, as long as it underwrites and the deal still makes sense, you can still make it work. But obviously, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
I've always found that probably the biggest challenge on a lot of deals, ones that are legacy deals that have been owned for many years, a lot of times decades by older owners, is that they don't foresee that reassessment. Even a lot of brokers I see never underwrite the reassessment, and it's massive, right? And like it's always it becomes a fairly significant hurdle in a lot of deals to overcome. And it's probably the one thing that kills more deals than not, at least when we're looking at things like, it's just, it ends up being a significant number. A lot of times in the tune of six figures, right? Multiple six figures
For
sometimes. And
sure.
so, have you found that same challenge? I mean, just as you guys look at deals, like to where like that is probably the number one factor that kills deals.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, in Florida, I'm figuring 2% of the purchase price. I mean, you
Yeah.
just figure 2% of the purchase price, and you're going to be pretty spot on your property taxes. And yeah, like the brokers don't understand that, and like it kind of pisses me off sometimes. I'm like, hey guys, like this is what the numbers are, and the sellers, of course, your property taxes are going to be 100 grand, and theirs are 10, right?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, they don't see that. And it's tough, but it is a, negotiating point where you can go in and say, look, here's the real numbers. Like I'm not BSing with you. I'm not just trying to throw you a bull number here. Like these are the numbers that we're going to get increase on insurance and property taxes and whatnot. And then they say, oh, well, why don't you just buy the LLC? Well,
Yeah.
you can't actually do that. It's actually illegal because whenever a property changes hands in Florida, you're legally supposed to notify the property appraiser. The mom and pop thinks that Derek and Kevin still cowboy deals like they were, but like we can't do that, right?
Well, I think there's another challenge with and we've been on both sides of that table, where we've acquired entities, and then we've also sold that way. But the challenge there with that is that whenever you go to if you're buying something and you're buying the entity, you've temporarily solved that issue, but like now the next buyer in line, if you're gonna sell that asset in 5 years, you've got to basically continue kicking that same can down the road. Otherwise, at some point, you will be impacted, right? Like you might not have been impacted on the buy, but now if you're going to sell and that next buyer is like, hey, I don't want to buy the entity, right? Like I see risk there. I'm just going to go ahead and form a new entity and I want to have a typical transaction. Well, guess what? Like you're going to get dinged in at that point in time because
That's
it's going to
right.
be devalued based on the reassessment. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to navigate, but we continue to get deals done. Sounds like you do as well, and it's something that
Yeah.
you work with, right?
Yeah.
Um, Talk to me about let's switch gears a little bit. Big wins and maybe even hard lessons that you've learned along the way. I guess starting with big wins. What would you say have been your one biggest win if you had to just pick one so far since you've started investing in real estate? I guess more specifically, investing in mobile home parks. So you've been at it now 5 years. What's the one big win that you can take away?
Well, I think it's just, a lot of it, Kevin, is really learning a skill. There's not really one specific, like, oh, yeah, like we did this refinance, like done these big refinances. I got more money than I ever thought I would ever get in one stroke. Yeah, I've had that happen. But I think it's the more valuable thing, the biggest win is that learning actually how private equity works and how, like, I've developed a skill. You have a skill that a very, very few amount of people in the world know how to do. Like raise money for a syndication, raise money for a fund. Like not that many people know how to do it and know how to do it well. And so, I think that's just a valuable skill to have. I mean, I remember when it was so hard for me to go make a $2,000 sale. Now, you're putting together these funds and things like that. I think it's just cool to see the evolving of myself and what I'm able to do. And it's just like, I think that's pretty cool if you think about it. And so that's probably one of the biggest wins for me and just like building skills as an individual and as a leader through this.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that's a huge win and that'll carry over into, for years and decades down the line.
No, I love it. I forgot to ask you, when did you finally exit out of the insurance game, or are you still in it? Maybe I should make the assumption
No,
that you have.
no. So it was in 2021. So
Okay.
was buying parks for about a year, and it just wasn't feasible for me to give because I had 10 district managers, and so it wasn't feasible to give my team like the necessary support and manage all these deals too. Like it just wasn't feasible anymore. So I had to retire from that business
Yeah, no, I mean, there's always so much bandwidth, right? So, and you obviously had a lot going on both sides of the equation, but I think you made the right decision to stick with mobile home parks.
for
Um,
sure.
Talk about the flip side of big wins. How about losses? I mean, what maybe some of the one biggest challenge that if you had, I know there's always challenges on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but um, maybe a loss that you've had along the way or a mistake that you made that just you walked away with some gold nuggets from.
Yeah, I think it ties into what we talked about earlier with the putting these systems and processes in
Hmm.
place early because when you're growing fast, you have to make decisions fast, right? And you may, hire people that aren't aligned with your values that can be an expensive mistake for
Yeah.
you down the road, right? You hire a bad manager, you hire a bad somebody else, right? And they end up stealing money from you or whatever it is, right? And that was just one of my hard lessons in, giving managers too much power. And then before you know it, you're like, oh my God, that they're running their own thing and doing this and taking money from selling homes and stuff. And you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like we can't let this happen. And it's funny, like when I was going through some of these situations, I'm like, man, I talked to other mobile home park operators and like, oh, we're going through the same thing. We had a manager do the same thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not I'm not the only idiot. But me personally having to fit the bill for this stuff, like
Yeah.
that's huge, right? And that was a big punch in the chest for me that, we had some things going on and I had to fit the bill for. We had just refinanced some deals. I got a chunk of money and we had a manager that was doing some shisty things. And so we had to take it on the chin for that.
Hmm.
We weren't gonna say, hey, investors, we screwed up. Like, hey, you're gonna have to fit the bill for that. No. So basically the chunk of money that I got from a refinance, I had to give it back.
Oh boy.
Right. And it was tough. It was tough. but I learned a lot from that because I don't think, you know, I literally had to like dig in for like a year and kind of go in and just kind of fix everything. Maybe it was more than a year, maybe it's 2 years. And a lot of people, I don't think they would have been able to go through that. Right?
Yeah.
We had issues going on at the parks, had to go in and solve all this stuff. I was, driving back and forth to Tampa to Orlando every day, didn't see my family. Like it was tough, right? But I just learned so much about this business and how to run like an investment company
Hmm.
because like when you know this, when you're running an investment company, we're not trying to do one deal. So me hurting and like killing myself and doing the right thing then still allows me to raise money from investors now.
Yep.
Had I
Absolutely.
not done that, we may not even be having this conversation now. So the pain then, I've always been good, Kevin, at like deferred reward,
Hmm.
deferred penalty. So I'm like, okay, we're going to defer the reward here. We're going to take the pain now because in the long run, that's going to be the smart thing to do because I learned so much in that situation and how to like put, guardrails in place to like, hey, we're not going to let that happen again. This is going to make us better operationally, but also just being able to call an investor and they still want to invest with me because they know that we're going to do the right thing
Yep.
and not run in a crappy situation.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I know that I mean, not just do you have a growing business, but you've got a growing family as well. So you're juggling three children at home. Talk to me about managing the business, but also managing family, finding that, I love to say balance, but there's never a perfect balance. I don't care who you are or how much focus you put on it. It's very difficult to find a really clean balance between both sides of the equation. But how do you do
Yeah, so I don't have a good answer to that. It's tough.
it?
It's tough.
You've got
And
young kids too, really young. I mean, you've got one. What you'd mentioned? Is it a girl or boy? 2 weeks old, I
two
think.
weeks old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a girl, and then
Okay.
my son is 2.5, and then my older daughter is 4.5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough. Like, I don't have the perfect answer for this. It's like, I think for me is like, I don't necessarily just like, I don't try to balance it. I just like spend time with them and, handle it as needed. Right. And I think it's honestly with the third kid, I actually like it better with three than two because it like forces you to like when you're with one of them to be like fully present and like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm not going to think about the freaking deal or the business or the podcast coming up. I'm going to be here with you because I'm going to value this time. I think it's really taught me in the last couple of weeks just like really valuing time more and being present in that time more. So
Yeah.
now even with more kids, I feel like I'm getting more quality time. So like in the
Yeah.
evenings, like I stop at 5 o'clock to help my
Hmm.
wife and we do some stuff with the kids and help get them to bed. And then I help some in the mornings too.
Yep.
And I changed a couple things where I can do like admin stuff at night, right? Because I don't really need to, it's quiet. Kids are asleep and whatnot. But um, I think an entrepreneur would be lying to you if they said it
Yeah.
was easy
Well,
because it's
I
not.
think, yeah, one takeaway there that I think, I like to just emphasize is you reference that you kind of stop your day at 5 p.m. And I'm sure if an emergency call comes up or something has to take place, like you'll hop on a call, right? But like you set the guardrails in place, and what I have found, my business partner Brian, he's got two younger girls now, but I started my family way before him. I'm older than him, and so we weren't on that same playing field because he was single and then he got married, but then they didn't have kids until just a couple of years ago. But my oldest is 11, right? And so I've kind of been the family guy ever since. And in the very beginning, it was interesting because both of us are grinding, like we're just busting our ass doing whatever has to be done, get done to continue growing the business. But I always, I from the very get go, I always put those guardrails in place, and it's uncomfortable, honestly, because like the other side doesn't necessarily even like he can't relate yet, right? Like he respects the guardrails and he respects why I'm doing it, but like there's still he can't fully relate. Now he has children, but I guess the moral of the story there is what happens is when you put those guardrails in place, it might be uncomfortable. You might feel like you're missing out on something or you're not putting all the work in, but actually what it does is forces you to be incredibly more efficient, right? It's kind of like when you know for meeting's sake, like we set an hour-long meeting. Guess what? You're going to always take up that entire hour.
That's right.
Set it for
That's right.
30 minutes, right? You're gonna probably get the same amount done in 30 minutes that you would have in that hour, right? And so like just setting those guardrails in place, you find that everyone else is you adapt to it, you get more efficient with your day to day, but then ultimately everyone else just learns to live with it, right? Like everyone, we all adapt as human beings. I mean, we learn to go with the flow, and so I love that you put that in place, man. It's incredibly important. I'm the same way. I stop my day at 5 o'clock. I try to a lot of times try to take Friday, not the entire day, but like the second half of the day, and just try to start start on the family time for the weekend. A lot of times if we're
Yeah.
going on a trip, we'll leave on that Friday. But I've tried to like start molding the rest of the company of like, hey, I want you guys like you're here for a reason. Like we hired you like you're a talented individual, like you're a critical part of the team. Like I don't necessarily have to be here all the time, right? That's why we have this amazing team surrounding us, and everyone knows the parameters. They know on the weekends, like unless it's in a critical emergency, like I'm probably with my family, and can it wait till Monday, right? Can it wait till Monday? And so I love that, buddy, and that's I think that will serve you well over time. Because I honestly the biggest thing I learned, I had two huge mentors earlier on in my journey. The very first one who got me into real estate in general when I was 19 years old, and then probably when I was 24, 25, my second mentor who really helped me understand scaling a large company and bringing in a lot of talent and surrounding yourself with incredibly talented folks. But both those individuals, while they were really successful in business, I mean, incredibly successful in business, both of them had multiple failed marriages and they had
Mm.
children that their biggest regret and that they had formed a bond later on in their children's lives. I'm talking like, 16, 17, 18, like when their kids are almost adults, right? But they can never buy back those years. And literally both of them, and they didn't know each other. Neither one of these guys knew each other, but ultimately each of them, the single biggest regret that they had was that they sacrificed their family to grow their business. And looking back, both of them would admit to you that they probably would have been equally as successful. They would have grown just as successful as a business if they would have spent more time with the family, right? Like if they'd have just found a little bit better way to balance their day to day. So I mean literally they'll live with that the rest of their lives. You can't buy that time back, right? Like you can never go get yesterday again. I mean yesterday's gone, that time's gone.
Right.
So I respect you, buddy. I respect that you're focusing on family. It's incredibly important, and it's fun, man. I mean kids
Yeah,
are
it is.
fun.
And you don't have to like I think I've heard people and say online like, "Oh, you have to, give up your things and it might be your family time." I'm like, dude, you don't have to
No
do that. You don't have to
bullshit.
do that. That's BS. And like I think a good tip for any real estate entrepreneur or just entrepreneur, like we were talking about the guardrails, like you put
Yeah,
those in, like you're putting in like, "Hey, I'm in control of this." Not my emails, not Slack messages, like I'm in control and I decide when I'm going to handle this stuff, right?
yep,
Um, because even I used to operate with like, oh my God, this is an emergency and whatnot. Like you know your priorities. Like Kevin, you know the most valuable things that you need to work on. And that email that came in may not fit in that category. So is it like you got to answer it right now and you have to get stressed out about it, not answering it? Probably not, right? So I think although it is difficult to do, like if you take the viewpoint of like, hey, I run this, I'm in control of this, these are my priorities, this is what I'm going to prioritize, and the other stuff is going to get handled when it gets handled.
yeah. Do you have a personal assistant? Have,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
huge. That's huge. I mean, the right personal assistant, the right executive assistant, whatever you want to label that individual. I mean, like, it's truly. I think a lot of times, at least for me, it was. It's a difference of being able to be more present and knowing that like someone's helping me identify the priorities of my day to day. Like I know what's most important, but even like the email is the worst. But
Oh,
having someone that can filter through that chaos and that noise is so valuable. It's so incredibly valuable. So that literally like 2 day only two. It's funny. I responded to your email this morning, but typically I don't even see them. Most of the time, I set 2 days a week, unless there's like a fire drill. 2 days a week where I go in and basically look at my urgent inbox that he helps me categorize. And I respond to things, and I do it in a literally matter of just like 2 hours. I'll respond to an entire week's worth of emails. But he eliminates all like 90% of it's noise, 90% of it like I wasn't going to respond to, but I would end up taking hours upon hours digging through it. There's a lot of anxiety associated with email, and so I think just that one element alone has saved or gained me, hundreds of hours in an annual on an annual basis by having a great executive assistant, amongst other things. So,
Yeah.
that's I'm good to hear. Good to hear. Glad that you've got someone on your team that's kind of your right hand, I guess, gal or guy. Um, Derek, so let's wrap this thing up here. The next 12 to 24 months, what's it look like for Victory?
Yeah, yeah. So we're expanding. I mean, our goal is to hit 60 million in deals this year. We will be with the deals we have under contract, we'll be close to half of that. So we're gonna have to, pick it up here in the second half of the year, but we've got a pipeline of deals, so I think we can do it. Um, and that's just been my MO. It's like massive years, interest rates go up, and it's like, okay, I'm not gonna like force anything, but okay, now I'm seeing some movement again. Boom, we're gonna have a big run again. And we're gonna expand, we're gonna hire more people and just, continue to grow. I mean, I think if you're not growing, then like what are you doing? I mean, gravity will pull down a flat line,
There
right?
you go.
There's nothing stays the same. Like that is a fallacy. Like it just doesn't stay the same. And so we have to continue to expand. And plus for my psyche, because I believe that production is the basis of morale. Like I feel good when
Mm,
I'm getting stuff done, right?
yep.
And like if I'm not growing, just ask my wife. Like she's like, "Oh my God, like he needs to do something to like pull to get the lion out of him or the lion makes him like kind of
That's hilarious. I love it. Well, Derek, appreciate you coming to the show, my friend. For those that want to learn more, they want to get in touch with you, learn about your company, about deals that you guys are doing. Where's the best place to reach you?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can follow me there. You can reach out to me. You can go to victorycapital.com. It's Vicktory capital.com, and you can check us out there.
Awesome, buddy. Well, appreciate you coming to the show, guys. I'll put all that in the show notes, and wishing you the best of luck, buddy. Hit that year end goal. I know we talked about before we came on the show. We got a pretty lofty goal ourselves, and we're getting to it, but we're a little behind the eight ball. But hopefully, the second half this year we can pick it up, and we all of us will crush it in 2025. So with that, buddy, best wishes to you and your family, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
All righty, guys, that's what we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host Kevin Bupp, wishing you huge success. Take care now.